Hey!
Hey, are we live?
Sorry for lateness.
Yeah.
If indeed we're live
There's
now.
one viewer.
Yeah.
There's one viewer.
Yeah.
Hey guy, hey,
Do-
thanks for hanging around.
Do you have any question?
We're gonna wrap this up, so it's been real.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is.
Dan very rudely just gonna be on his phone the entire
I'm trying
live
to
stream.
see us on our Facebook page to make sure it's
Oh,
working.
okay.
It's working.
That Jessica Rabbit
No.
drawing looks a lot like Soren, so
Yeah.
I think we're good. So yeah, we're in the room here.
Oh yeah, it's working.
Cool.
30.
I
2.5
can see my
thousand
voice
viewers.
on TV.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
So we got a couple of questions that we're going to address. Our first one, more importantly, do you guys ever finish eating the food? We get this a lot.
Yeah.
Don't start questions with more important.
Yeah.
First of all.
Especially when it's the first question.
Yeah, so for anyone who's just joining us, we're talking about After Hours. I'm Daniel, this is Soren, that's Michael. We're
Unnecessary.
We're 3/4 of the After Hours crew. Katie is working, otherwise she would be here. And we're talking about the Simpsons episode of After Hours, which Michael wrote. And the first question is, do we ever finish the food? And no, we don't. We try not to eat it unless like we have to for the show.
The food is generally, and we shoot for each episode takes a while to shoot. So the food's just sitting out there, and before we get to it, it's also just sitting in the back of a diner where it wasn't actually made. And it comes out, and a lot of times, beans are still frozen, stuff is very, very cold, the salad somehow is warm.
Yeah.
Like everything's swapped the temperature that it's supposed to be. And so generally it's not good. I mean, I'll eat it occasionally within the show for just to have a little business.
Yeah.
But the only time it's ever been, one time I insisted that we have pie in the episode.
You wrote it into the script. Soren eats a fresh pie.
got a chocolate soaked pie that's maybe the best thing I've ever tasted in my life, to the point where it started to ruin the episode because I was just eating it.
And your guys' side, I will commend you because you are both still occasionally willing to use food as a comedic prop.
Yeah.
Meaning you have to replicate that exact moment every take. And I have 20 episodes I started just being like, that's not a choice I'm willing to make as an actor.
Right.
I'm not going to do that over and over. And Katie and I both just don't eat. We don't touch our food.
I think you could see, we'll send around, we won't. Earlier scripts for this show was like, Dan is eating macaroni and cheese with this in it. Michael is not eating anything. He's got a bag of food.
Yeah.
Soren is eating this. Like everything was very specific. And then there was a deep run where we were like, they just finished eating. There's nothing on the place.
Yeah.
They're having coffee, like something simple so we didn't have to do any business or eat any garbage food.
I also love that if you take, I don't know why we never recycle the meals. Because if you put all the meals together,
There's a volume
there's like a
menu.
Cheesecake Factory level menu at this tiny diner. Yeah.
They have everything.
Also, I have a question for you guys.
We're going to
make it
go the
clear.
whole time on this one question.
The
I feel like
food-
I could just go.
The food that we eat at the cafe is prepared by our set deck person, Lauren. And
We're not
other
shitting on the
wonderful
food
people.
at this cafe.
I've never eaten at Lowe's Fleece Cafe, which is where we shoot this, so I don't know what they're. Have I ever eaten?
Eats.
No.
I've seen
No.
the menu.
No.
I mean, we played with the menu in
I
one
shacked
episode.
some balls
But,
on the back nine.
I would make
Fire
it
golf.
I would.
Let's do other questions.
Does the new
Oh, I
Batman
had like
versus-
3 more anecdotes though about the food. This is crazy.
Does the new Batman vs Superman look like shit, or is it just me?
Let's go back to talking about the food.
Yeah,
So like
great
in
question.
the early days,
Frozen peas is what I had.
in the early days we tried though to be like you were saying, like we
you're
had this
actually
whole
giving
through
us-
line of what Michael ate, and it was very elaborate and worked out, and I had choices that I had to replicate every time. And that was fun.
Yeah.
And when we had, Justin Vire, who directed a number of the early episodes, is a very ambitious filmmaker, and he would occasionally take a line in the script, like the waitress comes in and does a bit, to justify trying really admirable camera things. And we eventually started explicitly writing, like, it's just the 2 shots that you always see.
You'll find there are fewer and fewer interactions with the waitresses because we learned that
It's a whole extra shot.
it requires a new shot. We're like, I don't know, we're filming at 3 o'clock in the morning, so.
Or we treat her like Nanny on Muppet Babies, where
Yeah.
it's like, you just need navel down and a feminine voice, you get it. Waitress. Yeah.
How do you start the creative process of writing After Hours episodes? What are good pointers for writing comedy? Oof, that's a big question. The creative process for writing After Hours is we sit in a room, a bunch of us, Jack, who's the editor-in-chief of the site.
Do we have a clip?
It's just
Roll that beautiful beat.
Roll that
it's a wood panel wall.
Okay.
It's It's the three of us, Katie, a couple other people, generally some other writers for Cracked, and we'll sit in a room and we'll have something that's as fleshed out as, I want to do an after hours episode and I want these to be the points. These are things that I've been thinking about for a while. Or it's somebody walking into the room and being like, I want to do something about how everybody loves vampires now.
Right.
And then we come up with, in the room...
Usually Soren has the big societal...
We've really run the gamut. I mean,
Broad
the Simpsons episode that is airing today, right now, Michael has been toying with for about 5 years and has like brought it to several meetings. Like, here's 1,000 words on 2 minutes of a Simpsons episode that I want to share with you guys. Is there anything in this? And we're like, I don't know, kid, keep on trying. And other times, someone will just come in like, we haven't done a Batman episode yet. Can we do that? And that's how the Batman episode happened.
Yeah, and then we'll just hash it out. It's like a much less polished version of the show where everybody's interjecting, everybody's bringing up points, everybody's shitting on other people's points, and then whoever brought it in will usually take that episode and then go home and just work on it. They'll write it, bring it back
feedback,
in.
Yeah. And I want to shamelessly plug and give some behind the scenes info. Just that, like, the good news is, if you like the Simpsons episode, please share it and get people to watch it, because this time we've been sitting on this for so long, and every once in a while at a meeting someone would go like, I thought of this one Simpsons thing. You'd throw it on the pile and see if it hooks up to anything. And this time there was so much information that we ultimately decided to cut like a good 3 arguments out. So there's room for a part 2 of Simpsons shit that I would really like to get into, because it's the more overarching cohesive stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this one feels like a laundry list of very interesting thoughts, and I'm excited about a potential part 2 because it would be more like our classic Pixar episode where it's like an all-encompassing theory of The Simpsons.
Speaking of part 2, this question had a part 2, which is what other pointers do you have for writing comedy?
I only rolled my eyes because that's so hard to answer. It's the most common question.
I also want to make clear what I'm doing. So here's a phone where we're talking directly to you, and then behind that there's a big TV screen where Crack's general manager and VP Mandy and our head of production Rosie are putting your questions on the screen so we can read them. Fun fact. What are some pointers for getting started in comedy? For writing comedy?
I think it's, I would say, that's a really intangible.
Was it writing specifically?
Yeah,
writing
comedy.
Yeah,
I would say advice for writing comedy is don't try to write for everybody. Don't try to please everybody with your comedy. Find somebody that you respect, that you like a lot, and think of that person as your only audience, and then write to them, and then you'll get very good at least one very specific type of comedy, and then you can branch out from there. But the minute you try to please everybody, it gets really awful and kind of milquetoast.
I would agree with that. I think that was very succinct and clear. That's a real good answer, everybody. This is a free thing that we're giving. It doesn't cost you anything.
All right.
I would add be true, which doesn't just mean like right. Don't be like Hemingway and write a true sentence, true sentence, true sentence. But this is going to start with stand-up, but it's going to relate to how I think about comedy writing as well. I was always like trying to make my friends laugh and like making my family laugh and doing jokes and that kind of stuff. And I had friends who would say you should do stand-up because you're a funny person. And for a very long time, I didn't do stand-up because I would think, what is writing stand-up like? And I would immediately forget the guy who was telling stories and making his friends laugh and turn into the guy who was like, y'all ever notice airplanes? Like I would adopt the voice that to me was the archetypical stand-up comedy voice, and that stopped me from writing for a long time. It took years of writing in someone else's voice before I was like, no, the thing that makes people laugh is like this dumb thing that happened to me when I was getting my haircut, so let me just write an article about how awkward it is to get your haircut if you're a nervous person like me.
He would also compulsively do this while he was doing his stand-up in the early days.
Blazers.
That was my big
like,
no.
But I feel like stand-up and rap, because we've got a rapper here, so we'll talk about it. They're very much the same thing. Where like as soon as I, like a lot of sheltered white guys, wanted to like start trying to rap, and the first thing you do is, well, my name is Reverend Daniel, and I'm here to say I'm gonna rap at you in a rapping way. And it's like stand-up and rap to me have very like, you get caught in a trap of trying to sound like what you think it is instead of just like being true to what your voice is supposed to be.
Oh, and rap for sure. Yeah. It's a big effort to not sound like all the rappers that you made you want to write rap.
Right.
Which in many cases is not appropriate for you to sound like.
Right. I'm sure before you wrote your Shakespeare rap and before you wrote about like that or as in metaphors, you have a graveyard of raps that are just about your dick and about money.
I'm
and
fucking
about
great
fighting.
and I'll kill you. And I was like, why am I
But that's
writing
not
this?
true.
In every medium I've worked in, I've never just been like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm the best. You just fall into that for sure. I weirdly, well, I'm not refuting anything you guys have said, but I do think in writing comedy specifically, the big difference between writing comedy and writing drama, I guess, being the alternative, or nonfiction history, is that there are formulas, and the formulas are always evolving and advancing, and there's sort of a dialectic of joke ideas that you can watch play out if you watch every comedy show that comes out all the time like we do. So you can there is stuff to be learned by ruining it for yourself, and like sitting with a stopwatch and writing down the plot points of an Arrested Development episode. And I will direct people to, I have a Tumblr where I answered this question at great length, probably too long, didn't read. A Tumblr called Serious Flame. Has all my pointers on writing, so check that out.
Yeah.
All right. So those
What did you just accuse me of, by the way?
we said we did a faux eye roll since you said direct.
Oh, gotcha.
Tumblr.
Great.
How was the lineup decided?
It's mostly tasteful nudes.
The lineup does decide. We decided on characters very early on in the show, what each character archetype would be, and then we just found who kind of played that well. We just assigned it basically.
I believe we did this in Jack's aunt's boathouse.
Yeah,
it's
Pool House.
Pool House. Yeah,
Pool House,
it's crazy that like we're part of a club that we don't belong to because the start of After Hours started in a garage, which is not at all representative. Like there are people like it's just Steve Jobs and Wozniak in a garage. It was Mick Jagger and this fucking Charlie Watts in a garage. And it was us in the garage. We're not part of that club. We just happened to have been in the garage at the time.
It was a pool house, yeah. Jack didn't live in LA. He came out to Los Angeles, and we had sort of like some scripts sort of written. Dan had the Back to the Future script written, and I had a Serial Mascot script written. And from those, we were like, all right, well, let's now decide kind of on characters. And we had to build in new arguments when we decided how many characters there would be and everything.
And I think my script was originally person 1, person 2, person 3.
Yeah.
Maybe person 4.
He had not yet learned our names?
No, not
Still
person 1,
shaky.
person 2, person 3, Big Daniel, and they were sitting in a diner. But yeah, it was the three of us plus Jack in a boathouse garage thing, and we looked around and we're like, something's missing here. And then we reached out to
Well, we all had our dicks out, which tipped us off.
we reached out to the
You know
amazing
what we need?
Katie Willard, and even that was still like a conversation. Like we don't like, what do you want? Who are you, and what do you want your
What's going on?
Why did I reach out to you? What do you want your point of view to be? Because it's very much like an essay show and a point of view show. We established what her, I think was a real great fit for us because I reached out to her. I was like, here's what we're talking about Back to the Future, for example. Like just trying to give her an idea of what the show is. And instead of responding with like a resume or a reel or a headshot or anything like that, she was like, here's what I think is fucked up about Back to the Future, and she did this whole thing that made it into the episode about Marty's mom being a danger slut, her words.
Yeah.
And that's the best
yes.
interview anyone could give for this particular show.
Those are ones we should answer first.
And to answer your question in a different way, it also came from, as you sort of hinted at, but I like explaining because it's fun when you watch the show, to know that we wanted 4 characters, each of which who had a different wheelhouse, so to speak, of the type of argument they're going to make, and what their knowledge base and like relationship with pop culture would be. So we didn't want 4 talking heads that all sound like who ultimately ended up being the Daniel character. They have instant access in their brain to all the research that's been done. So we made that a person 2, and then eventually Daniel's like, I'll be person 2. And while doing this, and so each one sort of has like a different color to their commentary, which I think is
White.
Comes very clearly in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode, which I think is a real seminal episode of Soren's devisement, if I recall. About sort of that one sort of tips our hand in the sense that there are different numbers of groups that you can make your show about, obviously. But in comedy, if you have 2 people, it tends to be an odd couple situation. If you have 3 people, it tends to be a different thing. And 4 people, we knew we wanted 4 people in it, so we were just like, what is the grid of characteristics that exists in the show?
It just felt right.
That are 4. Yeah, same as Seinfeld, same as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was a lot of fun.
All of it. Yeah.
A couple of questions keep coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to, like, as a brief aside, because again, we're like our people are.
Oh, Trump! I'll talk about Trump.
Putting these questions up there. I wasn't being very clear. At one point, they'd written on this board that we're reading from. Someone had said, "Dan is so freaking cute," and then they deleted it. They removed it from our screen, so I can't have that anymore. And
it got so many thumbs down that it no longer exists on the site.
It disappeared. All right. Does the regular banter and relationships between you guys resemble those between the After Hours characters? Yes, I would say so. We have a lot of it's born from friendship to begin with. So at the first After Hours, which was Back to the Future, was born from a conversation that Dan had on the editorial call with Jack and Jason, or David Wong, as you might know him, in which they were talking about...
D.B. Cooper, as some of you know.
They were talking about how, in the new future, how Marty McFly now has this neutered servant of Biff, and how weird that is. Like, are there circumstances in which they casually mention the time that he tried to rape Marty McFly's mom?
It's but as far as the banter relationships, I
said you'd slip that R word in, and you did. I'm proud of you.
We were, I think we're much warmer with each other in real life, because the show can't really exist if I make a point about Spider-Man, and Soren's like, you know what? You're right. That's a good point. Also, I like you. Like, that's not a fun show. There needs to be some kind of tension or drama there.
Conflict.
So that's why,
like, drama.
We'll set up a lot of episodes where this one is a rare time when Dan and Michael are on the same side arguing something, or it's Soren and Dan versus Katie and Tall Dan, whatever.
Or before we got too lazy, Soren and Katie kiss and lightning flashes, and they're in completely different costumes. So we're here till fucking 6 a.m.
But the point is, like the show is can get very contentious. I think in general, where we don't show our warmth for each other in the show at all. Like Michael and I,
we're playing footsie.
One of my first friends when I moved to Los Angeles, and we care each other to a degree that is appropriate for a professional relationship. And that doesn't come across in the show. It's always like, Michael said something inappropriate, and Dan just can't believe it.
Well, yeah, the sort of the opposite of my last answer. I think the main difference is that all of us inhabit multiple points of view, or methods of argument all the time. Like, we'll be a Daniel and then a Katie. We're not allegiant to a worldview in the way that the characters are, obviously.
That's a good segue to how well the personas of characters you play mirror your own thoughts and opinions offset.
I interrupt a lot, which I do in the show as well. Sorry, you were saying something?
I would say... I don't know.
It comes and goes. I'll fluff Michael's dick a little bit and say that... I'll fluff both your dicks. It'll be great.
I prefer a ball walk.
Oh, it's a metaphor.
Michael is one of the best, like, blowhard buffoon actors that I'll find. And we play to that very often. As this guy who's like really dumb and doesn't even get it. There's no room for him to be as smart and as thoughtful in the show as he is in real life. And I think you can hear him on the podcast. He's his well of literature and psychology and just like sociology and human nature runs very, very deep. And there's just no room for that on the show. We're like, no, Michael is the guy who thinks about sex and food.
Right. And even when he's got a smart episode that he's written, which has a really coherent and incisive points, he can't give it to himself. He has to distribute those among the rest of us.
And similarly, we sort of, for Soren, steered into the skid that he's handsome and well-adjusted person, so that
and Eric
becomes like,
because that's comedy gold.
Cocky jock. we need that, and this bitch isn't gonna play it, so we have Soren do it. And again, we lose, I think, a lot of his actual depth and kindness.
Dibs on Fluffback. So Daniel, I think, and I think this is really interesting for anyone who does comedic acting, based on. First of all, just random chance, like roles you happen to take, and if you nail it, you have that skill now because you have experience doing that. somewhat just the way you look, and also
freaking cute, I believe is what you're.
But I mean more like your mannerisms or acting style, the acting style you naturally adhere to, will very quickly, if you're savvy about who's going to play what role or you care about this, sort of start to, your comedic voice sort of leads you towards I'm obviously going to often be in the mold of loud, dumb, happy guy. Not because it perfectly mirrors me, but it's because my acting style comes out that way a lot. And similarly, I think Dan is such a master of and this is going to break a lot of girls' hearts out there, such a master of the awkward social anxiety character that I think has, a hallowed history, and you just nail it, like Jason Bateman, eat your heart out. And that's not true at all. Daniel's a very confident, charismatic person who can control any room he walks into. And so all you nerd girls who are in love with him should not care. He doesn't understand you.
He doesn't get you.
I understand.
Michael gets you.
Cool, Michael will beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, exactly. This is his true self.
Does you find your own perspective changed after an episode? So not during the episodes themselves, no. Sometimes in the room, when we're talking about it early on in the sort of proto version of these episodes, when we're discussing something, we will fight occasionally. I mean, not in a real way. Fight in the way the friends fight, and minds will be changed occasionally about certain topics. I'm trying to think of a good example of that's happened.
I think Pixar was very organic, because I came into the room with a pitch that was like, do you guys ever notice that like Toy Story and Toy Story 2 are in the same universe? And then the room made
the truck shows up.
Theory.
The truck shows up in all the episodes. That they constantly are foreshadowing their next movie, the next installment.
And then putting it in a timeline that made sense was like, holy shit, Animal Farm's not just about pigs. Like that was a big moment. And your Spider-Man episode really changed me. As someone who's like read and written about Spider-Man for my entire life. Yeah. Michael wrote the Spider-Man episode that I think I either texted or emailed you immediately, just
very nice man,
pouring praise all over you how good this episode was, and like what you landed on being a thing that was new to me as an alleged Spider-Man aficionado.
Michael wrote a Matrix episode, and I had disregarded the Matrix completely because it's the first one.
I don't know why I wanted to write it. Really.
We hadn't done anything on the Matrix yet, and Michael wrote one episode about the entire Matrix trilogy that's really in depth and goes to every quadrant of the entire franchise, and it's really good, and it made me like the series more. I don't know that I'd watch it again, but it really gave me a new appreciation for what they were doing.
And he really had to fight to get that episode made, because there are so many meetings where no matter what time it was, and he's like, now if you watch the Animatrix, and we'd be like, that's the meeting! And then we just don't.
Merovingian backwards in the 1800th Gallic dialect.
This is a question that I've seen in comments on today's episode and Twitter that I wanted to make sure I said before I forget. People have asked me where I got the shirt that I'm wearing in today's episode. I got it at the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway. It's from Hamilton, the musical Hamilton. It's just like I went to go see that show.
I don't see it up there yet, but I'm sure that everybody's been asking a lot where I got this sweater. This is from TJ Maxx. I don't know if you're familiar. Both the sleeves were the same length, so I bought it.
Also on Broadway. Also,
I woke up in this morning.
Broadway Avenue in San Juan.
Not the shirt I'm wearing now. The shirt I'm wearing in the show. I need to clarify.
Ever entertain having guests sub in now and then?
Yes.
All the time. We desperately... Well, we have had some special cracked guests in some cracked projects that I'm very proud of. We Skyped essentially with Michael Ian Black, and we had Thomas Lennon in a sketch. And that's been great. But Cracked, I do think, has a long history of not working with celebrities. And
not a proud one.
Exactly.
Steady one.
In After Hours particularly, we've often talked about the classic Woody Allen where you're having an argument about someone's films and then J.J. Abrams is in the next booth. Or our ultimate, I think, would be Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
We are to just replace Michael for an episode and not explain it.
I mean, I'm desperate to have Tarantino in an episode because we had an expanded Tarantino universe thing, and it would be really great to just pan the camera over and there he is saying why we're wrong, or to make it a real world thing. Cody and I were at some party talking about Star Wars and like doing this long fan theory that we read somewhere about how BB-8, the droid from Force Awakens, was a girl. It was like, well, it's because of this and it's because of these things. And the guy listening to it was like, that's interesting. Why do you think that? I was like, well, based on the shape, it's a more feminine shape than they did for R2-D2, and this fan theory says this, and this fan theory says that. And the guy was like, I disagree. I think it's a boy droid. And I said, well, why do you think that? He said, because I talked to J.J. Abrams and he told me. And that's like so much better for an After Hours episode than anything else. Just like, here's a fan theory, and then J.J. Abrams walked in and like, you fucking nerds and you're wrong. Here's BB-8's dick. Look at it.
Yeah, we occasionally get advertisers who want to do something on the site, and if they're advertising a movie, almost always we will pitch them, hey, why don't we do an After Hours episode where like Craig Ferguson sits in, or Craig Robinson, or another Craig.
No, one of those big Craig Ferguson movies.
And we were hot times. Oh, Craig Ferguson. I guess you're right. There haven't been any. But we always want to. We try and get celebrities that we think would be great for this, and then it's sort of a two-way street. And that's just been met with radio silence. Nobody wants to be on After Hours.
And we know people who know Joss Whedon. We should have tried at least for the Joss Whedon episode. We don't even think of it. This is why we can't have nice things.
Well, I'm curious. I'm going to pose this to the audience who's listening, and you can just write in the Facebook comments, and I'll read them. To know, because we've toyed with this idea, how enraged people would get if one of us or Katie was not in an episode. Like we've talked about subbing in people for us and making After Hours a more expanded world, where this episode it's Michael, Soren, Katie, and Alex Schmidt, or Emily from College Humor. Or
I think
someone
Cody would
else
make
in
a good
Cody.
Michael.
Right, just like bringing in people so it's not always the four. Let us know if that's like, no, After Hours is pure, it's the four, and that's it. Or if it's like, yeah, let's get in some new blood every once in a while. Like, let's prove that. Let's expand the world.
You know, I want to go home with the waitress, right? Like, what dramatic situations is she involved in her personal life? I want to see their families at home waiting for them tensely by the phone.
Yeah,
Like, let's expand this universe.
Yeah. Who would win
a Mo episode
in a fist fight, Soren or Katie? I don't know.
Let's find out, Katie.
We have a clip?
Want to get in here?
I haven't done a lot of like punching, and I've got sort of delicate, effeminate hands, so I'm not. I think maybe after one shot, I wouldn't be sort of useless after that. So it could be Katie. I don't know.
Yeah. Soren's got hollow
Very
bones,
diplomatic.
and Katie tells a story about when she was a child getting into her first fight, where she bit someone's elbow off.
Yeah, bit it off. That's
and not even like, I'm just biting wherever. Like as a child, she knew this is going to take a long time to heal because you're constantly doing this. So I think she has this like innate Ulysses S. Grant-esque primal IQ for war that.
Yeah, no, she's much more.
Destroy you.
Yeah,
I guess
she's
we're
more
saying
tactical
she
than me.
would kick Soren's ass.
Any ideas for scripts that you never made?
Yeah, but we're gonna make them eventually. So calm down.
There are some. I'm trying to think if there's any that we just had to abandon along the way. We've tried to do Coen Brothers stuff before. Coen Brothers is really, really hard
For the same reason Simpsons is.
Yeah,
Which is that a lot of theories have been made about them, and it's hard to tear them apart beyond the level of like they're very good and effective.
or deconstruct them. And that's the thing. It's not as much fun because those are intentional. Everything within those scripts is very much. They did everything on purpose. They're smart guys.
And there
they know what
aren't
they're doing.
plot holes.
So if we're discussing it, all we're going to be doing is reiterating what they've already done.
Which is not to say we don't like the topics of our episodes, which I think is an interesting misconception that I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we spend time thinking about and making an episode on a movie, we love that movie, with possible exception of the Matrix franchise. But like, we're very interested in it, and it forms some kind of foundation of our pop culture knowledge base. So just for the record, I still see lots of comments that are like, why are you guys tearing apart The Simpsons? I love The Simpsons. And I'm like, as do I, my friend.
Well, it all starts
As
from a
do
place
I.
of love. So we start from a place of loving something, and then if we find things that don't make sense within it, or things that seem strange within that world, we're going to try and figure out how we can. So there's no cognitive dissonance there. How we can make sure that that's part of that world, that now it makes sense within that universe.
Which is totally arbitrary, because obviously there's people commenting on the Simpsons episode like, but it's just jokes. That's why that stuff happens. I'm like, yeah, but you're not playing the game with us.
episodes that we sort of abandoned or didn't. Coen Brothers is there. I was like 3 or 4 pages into a Shakespeare episode that I was like, no one's gonna give a shit about this. Like literature is a big one that we we want to talk about books in a big way that I don't think is sexy on the internet, which isn't me being like the internet is so stupid. I'm a slave to the climate of what people are interested in.
It's
If
also
they're not
harder
interested in
to
books,
show anything.
Yeah,
Because we can't show clips. So like we talked, I brought an idea for around the time of when we were doing advertisements for Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies was other literature that if you drop zombies in them, who would you like? Who are the characters that are going to survive? You can like pick somebody out of Jane Eyre. You can pick that crazy woman in the attic in Jane Eyre. And, like she's up on the 3rd floor. She's constantly setting things on fire. She has no connections to anyone. That's the type of person that would survive in a zombie apocalypse. But you can't talk about that in an episode because there's no clips you can throw to.
Yeah.
And you're going to alienate about 60% of your audience.
This is completely ignoring the. I can't even hear because I'm deafened by the sounds of 600,000 people Googling what is Soren talking about right now.
My favorite abandoned episode we actually filmed,
Okay.
which was the prototype episode.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by the man who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, strangely enough. After that fateful boathouse meeting, we shot an episode, and this answers another question I saw scroll by, which is it scripted or improv? It's completely scripted based on real conversations that we have over the course of hours and then condensed down.
Very thoroughly scripted.
Thoroughly scripted. And that's because we shot a version with 7 people in a living room, and it was improv, and we edited it down to 10 minutes from the hour conversation, and it is an incoherent gabble, but there was an argument Abe Epperson made that I love, and I'm sad it didn't reach the surface of the site because it was about, the episode idea was about going back in time and what would you change, and he was assigned the point of view that he would kill Hitler, and then it was our job to improvise like, okay, disagree with him. What's compelling evidence of why not? And he wanted to go back in time and kill baby Hitler. And the obvious one was, or the one that I found really satisfying that came up naturally, I forget from whom, was, but if you do that, when you return to your own time, Hitler never will have happened, so you will have just murdered someone.
Got a guy who went back and murdered a baby.
Who went back and murdered a baby, because it was going back to kill baby Hitler.
You're remembering this wrong. You were the one who said you would go back to kill baby Hitler.
Oh, and Abe had a counter-argument?
Then someone said, no, you're not going to get any credit for that. Then you very purely were like, I'll bring Abe back with me, and he'll film it, and that'll be proof. And then Abe said, no, then you're a guy with a video of you killing a baby.
Yeah, that was it.
This was making a snuff film in 19...
Dan has it. I mean, this was 24 years ago, so cut me some slack.
Yeah, that was we had a good time. I think we were eating pizza and drinking beers in this group that, you said 7, I think there was like 35,000 And I know that JP was there and James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy was there. Sean Gunn, who was in Guardians of the Galaxy, was there.
One of the people talking.
One of the people like talking. And we were so proud of this fun, very loose improv thing, and we brought it to the rest of the team, and Jason, David Wong, was like, I can't understand a second of this, and it makes me very anxious, because we were all talking on top of each other, and it was just such a mess, and he was like, it makes me really uncomfortable.
More like this.
Yeah. It's a lot, it's just a cluttered noise like this. So we do a couple more here.
2 more questions.
Oh, there's so many questions.
It's been decided.
Maybe there's something we can just...
You can give anyone a high five, who to be, whomever needs it most.
No, that didn't count. That's not one of the questions. How long does a single episode take to edit? Is that only interesting to me? I can be vetoed if it's boring.
Not talk about it.
Well, we have, now we have a number of very talented editors on the team. But for the first while, it was just myself and Justin Vire doing the editing. And I just want to take this opportunity to say editing film is great and fun and not that interesting, I guess, to talk about. But yeah,
I changed my mind about
about a week working 8 hours a day. It's pretty significant, and that's because an episode, an ultimate 6 to 9 to 10, if we're being bad. Episodes,
when it is 13,
can be 90 minutes of footage or 2 hours of footage, and you whittle that down and add the clips and animations. We have a whole team of people who help you with that. Yeah. So it's not a significant undertaking, and that's why sometimes you'll see episodes come out many months after we shot.
Yeah, we shoot 3 a night. Sorry, Jim.
Right.
We shoot 3 a night, and we have to do it when the restaurant's closed because we have a whole crew there. We have lights and cameras everything that you would need, and we have to constantly change the shot, and everybody needs to be very, very quiet in the background. That's why all those extras.
And the crew size, someone's asking it, what, 20 people there?
Yeah.
If you count the extras and everyone?
Yeah, and so we shoot at night. The only time they'll let us shoot, and that's why there's also not a lot of traffic in the background. Dan's in my shot, because that's about 3 or 4 in the morning generally. So that's 3 episodes in a night. And that's part of the reason we don't do a lot of improv either, because we want it all set beforehand. We want to make sure we know.
We want to
what
get
we're talking
everyone out of there on time.
Yeah.
And as an editor, I can say of the 90 minutes, a good 20 to 30 minutes is usually us holding while a truck goes by.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's no traffic.
Yeah.
It's I don't think we can do it not scripted, because by the end it's a struggle to even remember the words, because it's 6 in the morning or whatever.
It's also
And-
these are
And it's just like, I think it would be a fun behind the scenes thing, maybe not fun, but when we first get there and everyone's like still buzzing and it's light out while we're rehearsing, and we're like riffing and doing jokes and like cracking each other up in rehearsal, and then cut to 4 in the morning when we're just there just trying to like punch these words out of our head, and like it's your brain just doesn't even work anymore. I'm pretty decent when it comes to memorization, but at 4 in the morning I'm garbage. Like I can't memorize because the words don't even sound like words anymore, and you have to like pretend you're excited about fucking Powerpuff Girls or whatever.
Someday I do want to edit together from all the episodes outtakes where we're either like, fuck, God, damn it! I'm so sorry, everyone. I just want to see my family.
People are always like, "What are the bloopers like?" And they're not fun. And so it's like it's me actually punching myself in the head.
Like, where are the words?
Yeah,
or people nodding off. And I just want to edit an episode together of just like 4 crazy people at a diner with Tourette's and narcolepsy. Easily.
How many?
Put that together.
Someone asked how many takes we've got.
It's in all caps.
We want 2 full takes on both sides of the whole episode, and then the director will get pickups on things that we get wrong. By the end of the night, Soren and I will run through about 40 takes, because we're so tired and it's the last bit that we're trying to do, and we'll say, all right, hold on, I need to just like look at the page. Okay, got it.
right. It's not
Say the line, say the exact line. Isn't it funny how Star Wars is interesting? Okay.
It's
I
not.
need it one more time. I need it one more time. One more
Isn't
time.
it funny?
Fuck. All right, yeah.
It's
Star
not takes
Wars.
in the way that you would think about it, where somebody's coming in with the sticks every time, like take 37, take 30.
We try and do 3 to 4
take 56.
pages at a
We
time,
we
yeah.
will go through it as soon as somebody messes up. They'll go back to the beginning of that line and they'll just do it again, and it goes much quicker that way. But I would say it's never just 2 clean takes on each side. It's a bunch of mess ups, and they're not fun mess ups to watch. Everybody gets very mad at themselves because there's so many people waiting on you as well. So we're very aware of that, and it's late at night and everybody wants to go home, and so it's mostly just us apologizing.
Yeah. The unsung
or swearing
heroes,
at
the
ourselves.
extras who are sitting outside, who is like,
Sometimes in the
you need to
freezing cold.
sit in the cold and not do anything interesting. Like we don't even want you on your phone. You need to sit there and like pretend you're eating for hours, and you're not even part of the movie making process.
And sometimes, as I'm sure some of you have noticed, at least, and perhaps at most, the directors will often try to thematically do something out the window with the extras often. So like in the musical episode, someone had to do a like ballet pirouette on a particular line at 4:30 in the morning when we're like, and we have to shout out the window like, Michael fucked up his line again.
Please go back.
Please go back.
Yeah.
Unpour that liquid, replate the food, and prepare to pirouette again in the freezing cold if Michael can't remember this line at 4:30 in the morning. So it's a lot of fun.
yeah,
So let's
we
do.
got time for a bunch, I think.
Yeah, we can. Do
There's
it.
a lot of
20
good
minutes, we can
ones.
keep going.
Can I pick one?
Yeah.
That I'm interested in your
Yeah,
guys'
yeah.
answer on?
Yeah.
Do you know when your comedy crosses the line? Because I recently came to like a place of contentment for myself with this, and I think it's actually something that, unless you're really not insightful, every comedian thinks about at some point. Like, your job, I mean, there's many branches of comedy, but you can't get away with not attacking things sometimes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, who are you to whatever? There's always more to learn, etc. So I would say no, but I do think, or I don't always know, but I do think it's a comedian's job, and it sort of goes with the territory, to use your best practices that you have internally at the time you create the piece of content, thinking that you know where the line is, but still being open to, like, I've definitely published stuff, especially back in the article column days, where people would write back like, you really crossed the line. I'm like, after weighing your consideration, screw you. No, I didn't. And then I've definitely seen stuff where I'm like, that's a very good point. Maybe I should have softened that edge, or I actually wasn't thinking about that group of people at all when I penned this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a thing you have to constantly negotiate, and I'm just making a plea for like lovers of comedy to not immediately forsake a comedian just because they cross the line with you.
Yeah.
Because, man, there's a lot of different lives on Earth, and the line is something that you sort of have to figure out for yourself. And as a comedian, your job is to at least approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have sort of two answers to that. I have well, what the fuck was the question? Is there a like?
Do you know when your comedy's crossed the line?
Okay, yeah. I have
Mr. 9/11 joke in the latest rom-com episode.
I have like the philosophical idea, which is I got into comedy because I don't like authority or being told what to do, and I think that is, if there's one constant for comedy across all time, it would be that rebelliousness. Just like every comedy to me is someone saying, you said it was one way, but no, it's this way. Whether you're doing something silly in a very serious context, or you're directly speaking to authority, it's all that same rebellious streak. So that part of my brain and heart says nothing is off limits if you can make people laugh, which is like it's orgasm. It's a thing that a person can't control. So if you can if you can break through and make someone laugh, then you did it. Then it's doesn't matter. You're right because you broke through and made people laugh. That's how I feel and think philosophically. As I apply it to my own work, I'm not a shocking person. I'm not going to go out there and like, what's the funniest? How can I make people laugh about rape or murder or suicide or any of these horrible topics? I'm not interested in doing that. I think someone could, and that is comedy's job. I'm just not
laughed
going to
at
do it.
people who do that. It just is not what comes out of it.
I would, for my own work, be like, it's more fun and more challenging, more rewarding for me if I can make people laugh about a very specific time that I went bowling and something silly happened. Like that's where I go.
It's not even really, I guess outside of After Hours it can be an issue because we write columns and it is sort of lawless in that respect. And we do get the luxury of talking about whatever we want. I think you're absolutely right. There's a responsibility behind what you do joke about, because you can joke about anything. Nothing's off limits, but it's how you joke about it, because there are ways that you can do it in which you end up being kind of you become the asshole in the situation where it's no longer fun to laugh at. I don't think there's anything that you can't joke about though, but we don't have that problem much with After Hours. I mean, we're talking about elements of pop culture that already exist and we're deconstructing them. There's nothing there that we're going to bring to the table where we're like, hey, so there's this one time I was at this party, this girl was very drunk. Like, that's never going to happen in an episode. So I don't know that we ever have to worry about crossing the line in After Hours.
Although it's imprecise, society keeps changing. You know, in 100 years, our shit might seem offensive or not. So it's a constant process, I think. And I just realized the word subversive only is applied to terrorists, spies, and comedians.
I was ruining somebody's joke here. They asked me to drink Dan's coffee, but I don't like coffee.
So our VP just put on the screen in capital letters, tons of comments about Dan. You need to knock over the coffee. So drink Dan's coffee. Yeah. No, please don't. All right. What else?
That's how you know we know the line is. I'll tip it, but I won't.
I want to answer one of those.
Okay.
There's the worst experience doing the show? ?
Every goddamn night.
There was an episode where we talked about interdimensional travel, and I had to cough up a feather at one point.
That's not how I actually left.
So I had to devise a way in which to cough up a feather, because the minute you put a feather in your mouth, or several feathers in your mouth,
it gets wet.
They just adhere to the inside of your mouth.
I mean, try it at home.
They don't come out.
Look under your seat. There's a feather.
So there was like a whole system that I had built. That was a piece of paper folded over that then had a hole in the back of it that I could put feathers inside of and place that in my mouth.
And you love shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you that was fun at first. Devising it.
The building it was, that was like being a child again and building a gold. Forget it. It was like
gold team.
Yeah, like building something as a kid, and instead trying to do it on the day was just miserable.
It's also the kind of thing that, like, as you're building it, and this is true of any time anyone has ever done any kind of physical bit in anything that has ever been filmed, where it's like, I came up with a thing, and you're thinking about right now. You're thinking, what is the best way to do this? And you're not even thinking about how palatable it's going to be or how tolerable it's going to be. And then no matter what the physical bit is, you do it and you're happy with it. And then director says, oh, that one didn't really look great for a camera, or this person was crossing, or there was a plane, so the sound is bad. So anything that you build, you're never thinking about doing it 16 times, and then you inevitably do.
Yeah, Dan blew himself for one episode. Dan was covered in blue paint.
That was a nightmare. I was really unhappy about that. It's the Halloween episode where I was Tobias Funke from Arrested Development, and Soren was fucking Firefly. He was Mal from Firefly with a shirt and a vest. God damn it! You were Chocula. That's a big deal. Katie wore
Chocula, the face prosthetics,
wife beater and a wig, and I was fake mustache and full blue paint over my entire body.
And you also had to tip backwards in your chair in that episode as well.
Fall backwards twice in that episode, and it's not even just the discomfort of getting painted, although that's there, and the pain and annoyance of taking it off, although that's there too. It's so restrictive in terms of mobility, because if you move your arms, the paint peels, and if you like lift your arms from your side, the paint peels here. So you're either going to get sprayed constantly to fill up those patches, or you need to be conscious of like, this is how I'm allowed to move in this episode. And I'm not a precise person at all. I'm a clown, which when my arms go like this and I just spin doing the tarantella until I burst into flames. So I'm not really great at like, okay, Dan, in this take, don't move your arms for 12 minutes. And I'm like, okay, am I doing it now? Is this what you mean?
Yeah,
we actually discovered him outside a used car lot, selling, drawing attention. Yeah, exactly.
He couldn't even touch anything. Touching napkins, touching the table, anything like that is a continuity problem because it's now you've got blue everywhere, and it was a real problem. It makes me feel really bad for David Cross.
Yeah,
because he had to be that so frequently, and you know now how intolerable it is.
And it like really made me feel like a part of Arrested Development, because once he starts being the blue man in Arrested, there's blue paint, like handprints, throughout the show for the rest of the run of the show. And that was my previous apartment until I moved. There was just like, you could see, oh, that's where
just from the one time going
from the
home.
one time
Yeah.
you could see like, I know exactly that this smudge is because I finally got home and rested my head on the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it was like, oh, no, there's blue paint.
Similar story, we recently did Stumbling Dead, the zombie show, and anyone who's watched it's familiar with my makeup, which was quite elaborate, latex and wounds, that ended up looking pretty dynamite. And I was always there first in the morning and left last for that show because the makeup took so long to put on and take off. Believe it or not, even taking it off is quite a process. So on the last night, after we'd been up all night and I was just exhausted, the makeup artist was like, if you put a towel down over your pillow, you could just sleep in your makeup and come later in the day tomorrow and sleep for an extra hour. And I was like, heck yeah. So at 5 in the morning, I pulled up into my driveway and someone was blocking me because they were doing some maneuver in the driveway. And I completely forgot that I stepped out of my time and was like, what's the deal, man? And he was like, what happened to you? Are you okay?
See, did you ever think the show would be as popular as it is? I don't think we did. I remember.
I hated it.
It just worked out this way. I did like the very first edit that came in the first episode. I was like, this is no good. People aren't gonna like this. And then you re-edited it and added animations, and that was much better. But the very first, I don't know if you'll remember this. The day that the first episode came out in 2008, the night before, you and Katie Willard crashed at my apartment. Like you guys came over. We did not like let's celebrate after hours. We just hang out because we're friends. We came over to watch.
Another question.
We watched Goodfellas and then fell asleep. In the morning, woke up and like went for a walk and went about our days. And I just kept looking. And I was like, it's like a million views today. Like, looking at like it was number 1 on Dig back when Dig mattered, and it was still a thing. Like even if as it was doing well, we're like, oh, that's good. Our bosses will be pleased by this. And we've just been excited that I don't think anyone thought we would still be doing it.
I certainly didn't. I thought, when we started writing them, it was just, when we said at the very beginning who you would write your comedy for, we were writing it kind of for each other at that point. We were just writing something that we thought would be funny to one another, and we didn't anticipate that there'd be such a huge response online to it. But I'm happy that it has been. That this is what I think Crack now is most known for in a lot of circles. Like when we go to festivals and things like that, it's after hours that people are interested in.
And we still love doing it. Like
It's great.
I don't think anyone would be doing it if we didn't like it. Like it's not a shooting can be a chore, but there's no you hear about people who make things all the time. It's like, oh, that's what I'm gonna be remembered for, and I have to keep doing this. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But like I get just as jazzed about new arguments for the show as I do.
Don't let the fact that we complain so much right now. Don't let that fool you. We like doing this.
Well,
like,
we posted a behind the scenes mockumentary video where we read across the pages.
Oh yeah.
Where several of us like reference. Because After Hours is such a chore. And I was sad a lot of people got the impression that they're like, oh, I'm disappointed that they don't like doing the show. We love doing the show. The thing at 4 a.m. when Dan is hitting his head is what we don't like.
Yeah.
But
those feel like they make the most interesting stories.
And to save money on shooting days.
Yeah.
Someone asked us to tease the next episode. Do you guys know which one's running next? We
only shot one more, and it is
that hasn't run.
And it's David Bell wrote it. It's about alien invasions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about which aliens you most fear coming to Earth, which movie aliens, and that one David Bell wrote, and it's one of the strongest first scripts I think we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, we were very precious early on because we've all written several episodes of the show. And for a while, it was great. For a while, it was just Jack, Michael, me, and Dan writing the episode, and we were very precious about like how the characters sounded and everything. We wanted it to keep the tone, and we thought we thought it was a hard thing to do until we let other people write the episodes, and we're like, oh, okay, well, everybody else gets this immediately. All the other writers for Cracked, they're great at this.
Right. We tried to go in like, now David, there's a lot of there's like some nuance to the Dan character. Like, yeah, he's nerdy and weird. Okay, yeah, you get it.
That's fine. Alex wrote an episode, Teresa wrote an episode, Katie wrote 2 episodes, and David Bell's written this episode. David Wong,
Sarge wrote an episode.
Brockway, I think, wrote an episode, and it was almost embarrassing how easy it was for them. They're very, very good at this. So,
well, if you got about we've set an arbitrary time maximum of an hour, so we've got about 5 minutes left. I don't know if there's any questions that we can scroll through. If there's anything,
it just says 5-minute warning on the wall.
Yeah.
So stretch.
That's boring. That's boring. That's a bad question. You guys should feel bad about asking these bad questions.
Oh yeah, we are we're at the dregs now. Who are your favorite authors? No one cares about literature. We said that.
Saunders.
Yeah.
Obviously you can't slip it in.
Sorry, I have to.
Harlan Ellison.
Are any of you single? We're all married to each other.
Yeah.
The whole After Hours.
Oh, are we doing like rapid fire now? What projects are you developing?
That's stupid.
Next, losing weight. What is your favorite Simpsons episode? Hi, friend. Do you want to be a part of the live stream?
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're gonna keep going.
With the restaurant that we used to shoot in did not burn down. That's only within the reality of the story.
No, little trivia tidbit though. The restaurant, okay, so the very first restaurant we shot in, not that one, but then the second one we shot in is the same restaurant where they did the Reservoir Dogs scene where they talk about Madonna, the opening scene of Reservoir Dogs, which was really awesome to us, and I kept wanting to do a Tarantino episode, but we realized they changed the decor so much that no matter how you framed the table, you couldn't tell it was the same place. But it was.
Is there one to qualify?
Or to, I mean, God, I write them and forget them.
Who would you work with if you can work with anyone?
These guys. I mean, every day. Or my dad.
Your dad? We built a boat.
Right, like that's the cheesy answer to be like the people that I'm working with, but like that's the truth. I think when I mean, I'm never gonna move on. I'm gonna die here at the office, but when Michael moves on,
maybe they need a celebrity. Thank you.
Makes a show.
I assume.
Yeah.
We aren't celebrities.
We'll all still work with each other in some capacity forever. But yeah, maybe they get a celebrity.
The Coen brothers.
Yeah. If there's a celebrity that we could have on an episode, specifically for an episode of After Hours, that I think would be like a really good fit. Yeah.
We already talked about
Joss Whedon, probably.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
I
Kevin Smith.
don't know if it will be for an after
For
hours.
after
Like, I
hours.
want to sit and spend several hours with him and see if we can make anything, and if it would be good. And
Are you happy now?
We're your monkeys. We are your monkeys.
Is the
Hey.
comedy script? No, we did that.
All right, thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Oh,
like and subscribe.
send help, please.